everybody and welcome on today's video. Today it's November 19th and well, it's really nice outside. Sky is blue, sun is there. It's not too cold, so I thought let's do some work on Japanese maple. So let's come a little closer and we'll start with this raft. So this raft has been a problem for years now because, well, the two main trees in the front here, well, they almost died off completely. Now this one here has a dead branch here, I think, but I also think that there is some living stuff here, so I'm not going to touch that too much. And then I have here on this tree a little cutting that I planted and that is doing quite okay. So I tied it against this trunk, which is, I think, completely dead up to here. But here I have living tissue, so I hope, and this is going to take decades, but I cannot give up on this tree. I don't know why. I started it from a little cutting or earlier, I even don't remember, 25 years ago, I think. And yeah, and it's a nice little maple, but okay. So I have a branch coming from this tree trunk here that is really healthy, so I guided it here under. And well, I'm going to do some trimming today and get some of the longer and straight shoots off, and the really long ones, well, I'm going to try to take cuttings of them. So you see, it's really the nice Japanese maple structure with some long and two leggy branches, so these need to come off. Also going to remove the remaining leaves. There's not a lot left, of course, it's autumn. So I'm going to cut everything a little shorter, starting from the bottom. It's also a good moment to trim off the dead parts, which are not going to help us. A few leaves here. So you see, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. And now that the bottom parts are trimmed, I can work into the silhouette. So maples, especially Japanese maples, I think they tend to make a whole lot of buds all over the place. And it's a good thing to select some buds because you have tons of buds on the same spot, and you don't want that because it's going to be very, very messy in spring. So for example, if you see this trunk here, we have two tops here, which is very good, I think. There's some stuff growing on the inside of this curve that I'm going to reduce. A little dead stump here. Then we have tons of little shoots that we probably will not need. So there's 3 here now. So let's reduce that to 2. Then I have to choose a top. So I'd rather have a branch growing out here. So let's remove this, and this is a dead stump. And then I have a nice bud here, which if it grows, will grow straight up, so that's a better top. Then this is all looking very nice. Just going to trim back all these long and leggy pieces and some dead material. Okay, so I think that has this tree cleaned out. Here the back tree, which is very heavy, I have a little branch here that I can reduce, a couple of strong shoots here in this portion. So I'm going to remove the very strong one and keep the smaller ones, which will increase the taper. This is a dead stump. This looks good. Little dead stump. Remove the terminal bud. And then in the top, you see, I'm going to come a little closer. So here in the top, this is your typical Japanese maple chaotic growing pattern. So finally, I think that the tree looks really great. This is the back. But I have one branch, one growing under this one here. So no, I cannot keep that. So let's remove this one. One growing up, which I like. It's in a good position. Technically, it's in a better position than the two under it. So I'm going to get rid of that and keep the smallest one, just to have a better balance for the, well, you want the smaller branches in the top, of course. So is this a good time to do this? Yeah, because I watched the weather forecast. We are not going to have any frost in the coming 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm just reducing everything. This is a cool little branch, might become a top. So now we are looking at the front. This is from another tree. I also like this in the front. I also like the fact that the top here is splitting up. We have a few little dead stumps, but it's full of buds. Then of course this grows straight down. I don't want that. I don't mind branches growing down in the bottom part of a tree, but not in the top. In the top it has to grow up. And then here I'm going to remove the dead stumps, that's all. It's just a little cleaner, doesn't really matter. Here again, some dead stuff. Full of buds, I guess you can see them. And here, I don't think I need that. This is going straight at you, this little bud. So bud selection, always interesting. And you see we have a whole lot of new little buds like this. I'm not sure that I'm going to need that, but there's others here. There's a little bud here. There are even 2 buds, which is always nice. And it's in a good spot. Okay. So we're at this branch now, and here, well, this is growing back into the tree, so don't want that. And this is growing straight up, so that's really no use. You can always correct some things with little pieces of wire, but once the basic structure is set on a maple, you can work with clip and grow. Well, that's what I do. I mean, everyone can do whatever he wants. So this is also a nice branch, and it's dividing here. Then we have a very long part here, which is not that interesting, so I'm going to reduce that. And this branch, well, it can grow out a little more, but it's starting to grow inside this one, so let's reduce that also a little. Okay. That tree now, that's well, that's a problem. So let me reposition the camera and we'll have a look. Well, like I said, it's November and we have a nice day, but yeah, the sun is not there for very long. So This is an important portion. I really need this to get bigger because this is supposed to be bigger than the trees in the back. So yeah, I don't touch this, so I'm probably just going to work on the side branches. So here we have a couple of buds that I can remove straight up. This is long, straight, not interesting. So I'm going to remove that. This grows down. And I can just keep this as a basic structure. This is already a nice branch. I kind of like the fact that I have a pad here and another pad that is forming right over it. So that's not too bad. But of course you don't want these pads to grow one inside of the other. So I'm going to redirect some of this branching. So here at that stub, this is very straight, not wild about it, but probably can get rid of that. And there's a bud here in the inside of the curve. Okay, so that's good. This is very strong, lots of buds on the end of this and here, but not really in a good spot. So here we have a nice bud that should fill up this space, and then a little further this one, and then this one is growing down, so no, I'm not going to keep that one. And this whole portion here is growing straight up, so let's get rid of that. And if you want to alternate, I have a bud here, here, and then here, so I'm not going to need that one here. And then just the end tips that I will remove. And now, yeah, well, hope that this does well. Okay, well, and then we have this tree, the big one in the back. So very, very nice tree, very elegant tree. Lots of good growth. So that's what you want. That's the luxury problem. When you have a lot of branches, you can select the ones that you want to keep and remove the others. And then just get rid of some of the terminal stuff here, because I want this tree to stay rather compact, especially in the top. So this is a really, not going to say hedge pruning, but kinda. This might be just good for a cutting. So yeah, I'm gonna need a few cuttings. So I'm keeping the top very trimmed. So profile wise this is okay. Now I need to see structurally. So this is good, this is good. Maybe this is a little bit too much in the front. This is going straight up. And I think that if I leave the buds on this little stump here, it's going to be much more interesting. Here we have too much going on, so I'm just going to make a selection. And there's no really right or wrong when you have that much, except for obvious things like this one growing inside a curve. This is nice, making a little back branch. This is not needed, the little guy here. And as you probably can see, there's a whole lot of new little shoots coming out of the trunk. Here I'm just going to make a selection. Okay. I think that's it. It is of course almost impossible to use cut paste on all the little cuts that I made, but I have a few bigger ones like this one that I can close with my wound paste, so I don't do that a whole lot of time, but well, since it's a very wet season and it can get quite cold now, I don't think that I like this thing growing down here. Maybe I should put a little wire on that. Technically it's still a structural branch, so I could use a little piece of wire to open this up. Yeah, so I'll do that. Okay, and here I missed a little branch growing straight up. Yeah, these are the things that you have. You think you did it all, and then you realize you forgot a few. So I don't think that it is possible to do everything in one time. And this is also a strange branch. I don't know what I can do with that, but okay. Yeah, and here even little buds on the bottom. It might be interesting to let this grow. It would thicken the trunk and you wouldn't even see it. So that's okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is clean up a little bit of this dead material, but that's not really interesting. And another thing that I'm going to do is take the moss here and put it in my empty bonsai pots, so that I have nice and fresh moss to put on my trees in spring. So of course cleaning up dead leaves and weeds is not an interesting thing to watch, but I'll do that off camera. Not going to bore you with that. And then the last thing that I'm wanting to do is just take some cuttings. So I have a pot here somewhere. Yep, here it is. That's my little pot that I prepared. It has well, the basic bonsai soil, and with my chopstick I'll just get some of these longer cuttings, well, just branches at this point, into the soil. And I have no clue if they will grow, but I'm quite sure that if I throw them away, they will not grow. So if 1 out of 10 makes it, well, I'm going to be very happy, because I really need these cuttings to repair at least one of my trees in the raft. So if they are growing, and well, that would be great. So that's basically it. I don't think that I have much more big cuttings that I can, well, I'll put just everything that I have in, and you never know. If everything would grow, that would be completely amazing, but I don't have to believe in fairy tales, but okay. So yeah, well, everything is now in. So, just going to make sure that there's not too much air gaps and that everything is nice and tight. And I'll put this little pot next to my tree here, and I'll get another one. So here we can have a quick look on the clump fusion Japanese maple project. It's a project that I think half of the bonsai community started this year. It was a video by Bjorn Bjornholm of ACN, and then lots of people did it. And well, it's a fun little project. Of course, everyone has changed the technique just a little. I also did that. Instead of wiring the trees, I just put a little piece of foam here in the middle to open it up a little so that I don't have the trees touching each other. I have a little piece of wire here, well, synthetic raffia, to keep the trees together. But I've been doing fusion for I think 10 years now, and I think that I'm starting to understand what's going on. So there is no real, well, if you're really in a hurry, there is no real need to tighten everything down and constrict these things. You can do that sometimes to speed things up, but think with me here. These trees are in this pot. They're growing quite well. And so the roots and the trunks, well, they're going nowhere. They have to stay there. So the only thing they can do is grow, get bigger, and they will touch each other. And when they touch each other, well, they will fuse. So there's no need to make big tight things here, because it's only going to cut in and make the whole thing ugly. So I think it, just consider that it's fused, even if it is not, and work on your trees like they're one thing and they are fused, and start to work on the branches if you think it's big enough and all that stuff. But they will fuse because they have no place to go. The only thing that you might want to consider, if you say, well, it's time to repot it because it's really pot bound and it's not growing anymore, well, then maybe just apply some good tape around it for a couple of minutes when you repot it, so that it's not falling apart, and then just replant it. But don't risk to scar your trunks. So I'm not going to do anything except my long and maybe boring comments on this, but I wanted to show you the amazing colors of this Japanese maple. This orange it is just fantastic. So, and the red in the middle, it's so beautiful. So yeah, 5 trees, they're doing okay, and I'm sure that I'm going to keep them in this pot for at least 1 or 2 years. Then I'll probably just reduce everything around it, because I even didn't cut the taproot. I did nothing, just spread the roots. So let it grow for a year at least, maybe get it out in the spring of 2025. Comb out the roots, give them a light trim that's nice and round, put it back, let it grow. And I'm going to start to work on the branches. I think that I'd like to double this in size, the base of the trunk, and then maybe a tree up to here. So I'll probably have to cut it, everything right here, and then start on the ramification. Let the lowest branch grow out to thicken everything. Yeah, well, autumn is definitely here. And so this concludes the work on these 2 Japanese maples that I have. There's a couple of others, but they are in the big pots that you might know if you are a regular watcher of this channel. So it's very difficult to film this at this moment. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. See you next time and have a nice week.